Siona God, hello, all Oshtasahiya, good evening, and Wado, thank you for watching. So this is day 43 of Transformation of America, the true life story of a CIA mind control slave by Kathy O'Brien with Mark Phillips. And we are wrapping up chapter 16 and heading into 17 of Kathy's story. As I finished Bush's message, Salinas immediately took a notepad from the desk and scrawled a quick note. He passed it to a guard who was stationed at the door. He stood up, smiled, and leaned over his desk as he extended his hand in a warm handshake. I was escorted out. Houston found me on the front steps of the installation, and together we were escorted through the barbed wire fences and back onto the streets of Cancun. I waited in a small clearing nearby for an indeterminate length of time, playing with a large iguana. Finally, a taxi cab driver pulled up and honked his horn 3 times, signaling me to pick up a fist-sized ball of Mexican brown heroin. The heroin was crudely wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine, and measured approximately the size of a baseball. As quickly as the cab driver left, Houston was standing some distance away from 2 uniformed men, signaled me to join them. We were then driven to the airport, where we boarded a U.S. Air Force aircraft to Washington, D.C. Immediately upon arrival at Andrews Air Force Base, just outside of Washington, D.C., I was taken to Senator Byrd, who then escorted me to Dick Cheney's Pentagon office for a meeting with Vice President Bush. I was ill and vomiting from the high voltage administered in Mexico to compartmentalize my memory. I was allowed to use Byrd's magnetic pass key card to unlock the maze of doors that led to the ladies' room. I was still wearing my inappropriate for DC cruise clothes and carrying the heroin in my tote bag when I met with Bush to confirm Mexico's agreement to his proposal. Bush took the heroin for himself, obviously pleased with the quality of the product. Cheney laughed and told Bush he needed to confiscate the Contra-band. Bush replied, "Over my dead body," as he laughed at Cheney's Contra joke. "If you don't share some of it, that could be the case," Cheney said. "Pitch it here." Bush struck a pitch pose, wound up, made a fake-out pitch, and joked in baseball banter, "It's a high fly ball. You're going to have to steal." He tossed the heroin in the air, caught it, and strode for the door. Cheney got out of his chair, pointed to the door, and ordered me out. Houston and I were flown into Montego Bay, Jamaica, and transported to Ocho Rios, Ochorios, to board our next NCL cruise ship. That is just crazy to me. I mean, God, dog. Chapter 17, about faces. Soon after Kelly was inducted into George Bush's neighborhood through horrific sexual abuse, Bush enforced his controls on me. Our mind-controlled handler, Alex Houston, had taken Kelly and me to Washington, D.C. for separately scheduled meetings with Bush. Kelly had already been escorted by agents to a rendezvous with him that morning, during which time I had been ordered to one of U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd's offices located in the nearby FBI Hoover building. There, Byrd reinforced his holds on me by claiming control of the Justice Department and proving once again that I had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. My horror reaction was compounded when Byrd looked at his pocket watch and notified me in Alice in Wonderland cryptic language, "You're late for a very important date," referring to my meeting with Bush. I sprinted from the Hoover building, encountering Houston, who waited just outside. Houston hurried me to the Smithsonian, where I waited for my escorts as instructed at the face-changing exhibit. This computerized exhibit illustrates how an individual's face can take on a radically different appearance by slightly altering a single feature. The exhibit fascinated me as a programmed MPD, since multiples often experience the unnerving phenomena of routinely not recognizing themselves in a mirror due to switching personalities. A multiple's face often changes slightly with each switch, which validates the religious community's perceptions of so-called demonic possession in occultism. Logic quickly dispels this belief when it is realized that everyone's expression changes according to emotion, by skin color and tones, blood pressure, and by tightening or relaxing specific micromuscles. And MPD's face changes are more exaggerated when these natural conditions are combined with the results of sophisticated programming. Charm School teaches subconscious control over these natural phenomena as a ready-made disguise on government slaves such as myself, as well as to enhance sex slaves' beauty to their maximum potential. I was incapable of thinking or logically understanding my fascination with the display, as I stood totally enthralled, waiting for my escorts as ordered. As the escorts approached, I was relieved to see Kelly with them. Though she was visibly tranced and traumatized, the fact that she was alive was all I was capable of grasping. When she saw the face-changing exhibit, she excitedly exclaimed, "Uncle George just read me a book about this." Before I could hear any more, I was led away, leaving Kelly with our handler, Houston. I was then quickly taken to Bush's residence office, which heretofore was unfamiliar to me. Although it had slate blue plush carpets and fine furnishings like the White House office, lattice work and smaller rooms provided a different air. I sat in a hard-back wooden chair as ordered, while Bush carefully positioned himself in front of me on a little wooden footstool. This allowed me clear visibility of the large book that he held in his lap. Okay. All illustrations faced me, while all text except the last page was printed in the holder's direction. This book was a unique high-tech piece of art specifically designed to enforce Bush's favorite method. Jesus. Programming. Oh man, I'm only 5 minutes in. God dang. You are what you read. The juvenile face depicted on the front of this hardcover book gave it the appearance of a children's storybook. God, dog. It was entitled About Faces. Bush explained the dynamic of changing faces and becoming what I read. Although I had been conditioned to this idea all my life through the Disney stories, The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, etc., I was not prepared for Bush's version of You Are What You Read. Program and explanations. The illustrations themselves were elaborate, consisting of mirrors and hypnotic depictions. He seemingly made the book come alive in my mind as he read page after page of hypnotic, metaphorical language, all the while creating powerful illusions. His impersonations of the characters further enhanced the desired effect of fantasy becoming reality. The extraordinary effort to scramble reality would have worked perfectly had it not been for another victim and myself discussing it only a few days later. The purpose of Bush's book was clearly explained. All right, had to start that back. Let's see. Not been for another victim and myself discussing it only a few days later. The purpose of Bush's book was clearly explained within the first few pages, which included the following passage. I am the vice president when circumstance demands, and I am your commander. You'll follow my commands. The first command is important. It is one you will heed. When I send you a book, you are what you read. Throughout my tenure as a presidential model mind control slave, I was provided specific books according to Bush's program. These books, delivered through pre-established channels such as Ken Riley, Raley, Alex Houston, and even Ronald Reagan, came complete with specific commands on how they were to be interpreted and used. Some books were used to instruct me on operations. Some were an attempt to scramble my memory with fantasy. Others were used to load my mind with pertinent data such as bank account, passport numbers, and so on. I was provided a paperback book entitled Afghanistan, from which I absorbed history, current political events, and the strength of Afghani freedom fighters. I have since learned that the book I read was never publicly released in the text it was provided me. According to instruction, the book was delivered back to Bush as quickly as I finished memorizing it. I wonder, in retrospect, if any part of it contained fact beyond how I was supposed to perceive it. I read stories of espionage, including Robert Ludlum's, Ludlums, Born Identity, and William Deal's, Diehls, Chameleon. Mostly, I was provided steamy sex novels for further training as well as scrambles. Kelly was conditioned to fairy tales, Steven Spielberg's E.T., NASA, NSA, Operative George Lucas, Star Wars, and the nightmarish Never-Ending Story. Steinbeck's classic of Mice and Men caused Kelly constantly to quote the dependent character of Lenny for years, saying, "Tell me what to do, George." She still does this each and every time I am allowed to visit with her in the mental institution. The attendant therapist overseeing the visit has yet to pick up on this program in queue, and I am forbidden by juvenile court order not to discuss Kelly's past or therapy. That's insane. Bush's most effective example of You Are What You Read in this book about faces occurred during his reading of the page depicting lizard-like aliens from a far-off deep space place. Claiming to me to be an alien himself, Bush apparently activated a hologram of a lizard-like alien, which provided the illusion of Bush transforming like a chameleon before my eyes. In retrospect, I understand that Bush had been painstakingly careful in positioning our seats in order that the hologram's effectiveness be maximized. U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Aquino's occultism provided trauma sufficient to maintain my Project Monarch mind controlled existence, despite his inability to affect my core spirituality. Therefore, I was not routinely subjected to the other favorite trauma of choice, alien themes, like many slaves, including Kelly, I knew had been. The effect of Bush's illusion hologram of such victims is binding and strong. Even Aquino envied the mind-shattering effects of Bush's alien-themed visual traumas to the extent that he wrote and published his own comic book sequel to Lucas's Star Wars. While occultism is easily dispelled with reason and fact, Bush's alien theme continues to be reinforced through NASA's involvement in mind control atrocities. Additionally, California's 24-year incumbent Senator Alan Cranston of the Select Committee on Intelligence has perpetuated his trauma base for decades, as have others, despite my having escaped routine alien-themed traumas. Bush's "You Are What You Read" hologram proved devastatingly sufficient for him to gain total control of my robotic mind from that moment on until my rescue in 1988. By the time Bush reached the last page of his About Faces book, I was so traumatized I instantly became what I read when I read the last verse aloud as ordered. I am a true patriot living an American dream. I will become my role when you pull my string. I will become my part so I can be all I can be, because just like the vice president, I am what I read. That's insane. Donde ko hayin kagay, we na gacha naskay to me again, love you minute.